today's video we'll be working on this AC. Obviously you can see here that the line is frozen solid. See, the system's running right now. So what we want to do is we want to allow this to thaw out. So we're going to go ahead and pull our disconnect and allow this line to thaw out while we troubleshoot for the problem. The thermostat is set to cool and auto. I do have low voltage because my condenser was running. You can see here, this is the evap. The evap were frozen as well. So right now we're going to pull our panel. We're going to inspect the filter. The first thing I noticed when I came here is the blower motor was not running. The first thing I want to check whenever I'm working on my system, if I suspect an issue with the blower motor, right here is going to be my fan relay. And if you just put your hand over it, I can see it's extremely hot. That tells me that my relay is sending the signal, but for whatever reason, my blower motor is not responding. You can see here, it's about 101 outside, and that's taking the temperature off of the asphalt. Here, I'm just taking the temperature off of my relay, and you can see the surface temperature right now to the touch is 116. We're going to open the panel. I was able to speak with the prospect, and there was work done prior to this. And you can see here what they did was they replaced the capacitor. Generally, when you're dealing with issues relating to your blower motor, what happens oftentimes is the first thing the technician is going to do is replace the capacitor. Now, what I always advise to individuals who pursue that route is when you replace the capacitor, you may allow to extend the life of your blower motor anywhere from a few hours to a few days to a few months. So it's kind of a 50-50 chance when you just replace the capacitor. And safety is very important when you're working on the system. I did remove my panel, so this did disengage my door switch. This is actually a safety. Once you remove your panel, this will remove any power to your system. For any reason you're unsure or you want that extra step of safety, go ahead and remove the 120 volts to your system. If you're unsure, you can always use your non-contact voltage detector. I'm going to reapply power. This is going to be my non-contact voltage detector. You can see I have incoming power. Once you remove power, you should not have any voltage coming in. The next thing I want to do when I'm working on the blower motor, once I've removed the power, is I want to just put my hands where the squirrel cage is and see if I can rotate it. And this motor is completely seized up. I could see somebody at some point added some type of lubricant to kind of give it some extra time, but this thing is not moving no matter what I do. The next thing I want to do is I want to test the incoming voltage to my blower. There have been cases where I've inspected the blower motor, I've tried to turn the squirrel cage and it moves freely. So at this point, I just want to make sure that we are getting incoming voltage to our blower motor once the door switch is engaged. Here I have my multimeter set to volt AC. What I'm doing here is, if you look at my wires, I have my white, which is my neutral common, and my black, that's going to be my 120 volt power supply to my blower motor. And you can see here it ties into the purple and the black. And what I did was I traced the wires up here. I put my multimeter in the prongs. You want to obviously make sure that your thermostat is set to the proper settings. Right now I have the thermostat set to cool and auto on the fan. If you are unsure, you can go ahead and just put your fan to the on position instead of auto. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hit my door switch. So you do see 120 volts here at my harness. I'll do the same thing here where my wire nuts are, and I'm just going to check for the voltage in there. Obviously we have one going into our hot, one going into the neutral. I'm going to engage my door switch, and you can see here that I do have 120 volts. I have seen guys in the field use their non-contact voltage detector kind of as a quick test. So you can see here, I do not have power coming in, obviously because my door switch is not engaged. My door switch manually engaged. Use electrical tape. Some guys like to use a magnet. The door switch is engaged. You can see I do have power. The electrical tape. Disconnect your 120 volt power supply. At this point, we're ready to start removing our blow motor. We have 2 screws that secure the frame. There's 1 on each side. Remove those 2 screws. You'll simply just slide out the blower motor. The blower is extremely hot, so you want to be careful. You can see here it's reaching even up to 180 just on the surface touch. So be very careful when you're handling the blower motor. This is the part that you want to pay attention to. Again, I know a lot of times guys see wires and they say, hey, I'm just going to connect the same wires with the same colors, but that's not true necessarily, especially when dealing with blower motors. Here you can see we have 3 wires that are tied in, and we have 2 that are cut off from this blower motor. What you want to do is you want to make notes on what speed each of the wires are used for and what they connect to. So here, when you look at the schematics, if you look at the wires that are connected, these are my notes right here. So from my harness, I have orange, purple, and black. The purple is going to be after it goes through my line splice connector or my red harness, it comes up as white, and that is going to be my common or my neutral. On my notes, I'm going to put a C, and that indicates to me that this is the common. The orange wire, O, orange, is going to be for my medium low speed. So here we put medium low. The black wire is going to be for my high speed. So looking at our schematic, the purples are common, the orange is our medium low, and the black is going to be our high speed. Now to get the proper wiring, you want to look here on your blower motor and read the schematics. So if you look here, you can see the motor's still hot. You can see the black is going to be for my high speed. So here we need to connect our high speed on our new blower motor to the black. The orange is going to be our medium low. The white is going to be connected to our line, which is going to be our neutral or our common. Here, reading my notes, I know that the purple, which is the common, should be connected to my white. Here we have purple to white. Black is going to be our high, black to black. Our orange is going to be medium low, medium low. Now again, the reason I point this out is because there are times where you get different type or styles of blower motors and the wires are completely different. You may have an orange wire on your new blower motor, but it may control a completely different speed. Speed is always going to be for your AC, and your medium or low speed is going to be for your heater. Now we're ready to remove our blower motor from the squirrel cage and reassemble our new one. So here we're going to remove our screws that secure to the outer case. This is going to be our torsion kit. Just going to remove our 3 screws, including our ground. Here we're going to loosen our lock nut that secures to our shaft for our motor. You don't have to take the screw all the way out. You just want to make sure it's nice and loose. Here we're going to remove the capacitor. Should pull right out. Here I have a degreaser. Just going to spray this in there and then I'll hose it down. Some guys kind of skip this step. It's really up to you. You can see all the dirt and corrosion is coming out of there. goal isn't to make our blower, our squirrel cage shiny. The goal is to remove any possibility of contaminating the new motor with dust and debris. There are a few things that you want to make sure when you're purchasing your new motor and installing your new one. You want to make sure on your new motor that you get the same horsepower, the same voltage, and you also want to pay attention to your amperage. You also want to make sure that your RPM matches your new motor. You want to keep in mind that when you purchase your new blower motor, it does not come with a capacitor, so you're going to have to purchase a capacitor separately. Always recommend when you do put a new blower motor or a condenser fan motor, you always want to put a new capacitor as well. We're also going to have to replace our motor torsion mount. Old motor, they were actually attached to the motor itself. On the new ones, we're going to have to add it. Make sure you put your gaskets in the proper positions. In all three, you want to make sure these go in because this will help with reducing any vibration of your new motor. I'm going to slide it down and then we'll secure it to the motor. Here we're going to tighten down our torsion kit. Before we make any connections, we're going to go ahead and dry fit our motor to our squirrel cage. On this specific motor, we are going to have to cut down the ends of these rods. This is just to ensure that we have enough clearance once we put the new squirrel cage on. We don't want any restrictions allowing it to move freely. And here I used my grinder to cut the rods right off. Right now we're going to dry fit our motor. Don't use a screwdriver, don't use your drill. Just want to use our fingers just to make sure everything properly fits. The reason you want to use your finger is because I have seen situations where a drill or a screwdriver was used and you end up stripping the screw. Also keep in mind, this is going to be the top of the base when I reconnect it. So here I want to make sure my wires are here at the bottom. I don't really like wires dangling here on the top. Also keep in mind, this is going to be the top of the base when I reconnect it. So here I want to make sure my wires are here at the bottom. I don't really like wires dangling here on the top. Now I'll use my screwdriver to fasten and tighten my connection. We just want to make sure that we connect our ground wire. Wires for the capacitor are pretty long, so I just like to zip tie it. Here I'm going to take the rubber guard off of my old motor and I'm going to use it for my new capacitor. I don't have it. A lot of these new motors, the line's already insulated. Just make sure that when you connect it, that you slide it all the way down. I'm going to secure my new capacitor. Now we're going to connect our squirrel cage to our shaft. Two things you want to keep in mind. Number one, if you look at the shaft, there's a flat part right here. You can see the rest is oval. If you get a top view, and you can see that this part is flat. You always want to make sure when you tighten your squirrel cage that you take your lock screw and you tighten it directly to the flat part. If you don't do that and you tighten it to the oval, eventually it'll come loose and you'll cause more problems. So make sure you secure it to the flat portion of the shaft of your motor. Secondly, you want to make sure that you adjust your squirrel cage nice and evenly. You don't want it too up because it'll scrape against the frame. You don't want it too down because it'll scrape against the motor. So you want to go ahead and just put it right in between. Here I've tightened it down nice and secure. And you can see I'm just rotating it manually just to make sure that we don't have any issues with it scraping. But now I'm going to give it a nice torque and tighten it down. You want it nice and tight. You don't want this thing coming out. Now here, based off the schematic of my new wires, you can see my yellow is going to be my common. My two brown are going to be for my capacitor. My black is going to be for my high speed. My blue is going to be for my medium speed. And my red is going to be for my low speed. Also see here, we have wires that are here in the back. And this is going to be for rotation. So it basically tells you which ones go for counterclockwise and which one is for the clockwise rotation. On here is I basically just capped off my red and my blue. That's going to be my medium and my low. And then I connected my hot, which is my black, which is going to be my high speed. And then my yellow, which is going to be my common or my neutral. Now this is going to be a regular 3-prong cord that I'm using. You can see here. And what I'm going to do is I just need a 120 volt supply to my blower motor. I want to make sure that it's in the proper rotation before I install it. This specific setup, you have the filter at the bottom. That's the air that's coming in. You can see here it tells me the rotation that I need. And basically here you want the airflow to push up. I'm just going to plug it in. I just want to make sure the rotation is correct. I have a piece of paper. You can see it is blowing upward towards me. You can see the rotation here at the shaft. Now I'm going to unplug it and we'll see it slow down. So we do have the proper rotation. Now I'm just going to slide in my motor. You can see there's little grooves there that will allow the railing on the side to slide in, and then I'll secure my 2 screws on the top. Now that we got it in, we're going to go ahead and secure it. Okay, so here we have our harness, and we have our orange, our purple, and our black. This is our old motor, which I crossed out. This is my new motor. The black is going to be the high, the yellow is going to be the common, and the blue is going to be the medium. Black to black, that's my high speed. Orange to blue, that's my medium speed. Purple to yellow, that's my neutral or my common. Here I just capped off my red, which is going to be my low speed. This is my old filter, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. You can see the difference. This is going to allow for more airflow. You want to make sure when you install the filter that you install it with the proper airflow. So this is going to be pointing up towards the blower. Now I'm going to plug my disconnect back in. See here, the line's already thawed out. I'm going to reapply the 120 volts. I'm going to manually engage the door switch, and that should turn the blower on because the thermostat is set to the proper settings. This video was a help. It was informational. Please subscribe.